आता है. Or you can also can say that it extends from the left coliflexure up to the pelvic brim. ठीक है? At the, when this ascending colon reaches the pelvic brim, it is going to continue with the sigmoid colon. ठीक है जी? Okay. Now it is about 10 inches in length. ठीक है? It is about 10 inches length, and it is going to occupy. You can see that on the left upper and the left lower quadrant. ठीक है? So it is going to occupy the left upper and the left lower quadrant, both of the left quadrants, right? Or to be specific, it's going to start at the left hypochondrium, right? And that is going to run downwards along the left lumbar region. ठीक है जी? इसका function क्या है जी? Its function is basically it is going to store the remains of the digested food. ठीक है? Digested food की जो remains हैं, they are going to be stored over until they can be expelled here into the rectum, right? To the sigmoid colon, and therefore from the sigmoid colon up to the rectum. So it is going to work as a storehouse. And secondly, during the passage from here, that undigested food, which is going to be from the feces rather, or the stools, they get solidified when they gradually descend through the descending colon. ठीक है जी? So solidify क्यों होंगे? Because the water and electrolytes are being absorbed, so it is going to get solidified. Okay. Now, transverse colon, its course is that it is just it begins at the splenic flexure, at the upper end of the upper part of the upper here, just along the lower pole of the spleen. You can see here it lies the spleen. So from the lower pole of the spleen over here, it passes downwards, right, through the left hypochondrium and then into the left lumbar region, right? And here, while passing from left hypochondrium to the left lumbar region, it is lying along the outer border of the left kidney. Here you can see this one. See, here you can see this is the posterior abdominal wall, which is showing the line of attachment of the peritoneum, basically, right? And you can see this is the line of attachment of the descending colon, right? And here you can see this is the outer border of the left kidney, the upper left kidney. It is running downwards along the outer border of the left kidney. ठीक है जी? And here it is going to extend downwards up to the this is the pelvic rim. Pelvic we have talked about already. Okay, so it is going to end over here at the pelvic rim, and here you can see this is the line of attachment to the sigmoid mesocolon. We have talked about it already. It's to sigmoid mesocolon here, that is, it is attached over the posterior abdominal wall in the inverted V shape, right? So here it is going to be continuous, but when it reaches at the level of the pelvic rim, it is going to be continuous with the sigmoid colon. ठीक है जी? And here this line of attachment is showing the attachment to the sigmoid mesocolon की attachment आपको नजर आ रही है. So it means कि यहाँ से आपका sigmoid colon start हो जाता है, right? So I will repeat it again that it begins at the splenic flexure, right, at the upper part of the abdomen, upper left quadrant, and then it is going to run downwards to the left hypochondrium and then to the left lumbar region, running on the lateral border of the left kidney, and then when it reaches at the level of the pelvic rim, it is going to be continuous with the sigmoid colon. And as far as peritoneal attachment is concerned, it is similar like that of the ascending colon. Okay, here you can also see the ascending colon में भी क्या था? The peritoneum is going to be attached to its anterior surface and to the sides. यहाँ भी आप देखें, the peritoneum is going to cover the colon from the anterior surface and then also the sides, and by on its sides it is going to be attached with the posterior abdominal wall. And so the posterior surface of the descending colon, it is lying in direct contact with the, you see, this retroperitoneal fat over here of the posterior abdominal wall, right? So it is, have the peritoneal attachment on an anterior surface at the both sides, and posteriorly it is divided. So you can say it as a, the retroperitoneal structure, or you can say it's a, partially covered with the peritoneal. ठीक है जी? कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है बच्चे? तो ये चीजें पहले एक दफा we have discussed about them already, so I'm going too fast. Okay जी, now we'll talk about its relation जी. इसके relations क्या होंगे? As you can see this, the loop system, the splenic flexure going downwards, and here it is going to be, when it reaches the level pelvic curve, it is going to continue with the, you see, this sigma shaped, this sigmoid colon. ठीक है जी? Okay. Now, anterior relations में क्या होगा जी? Can anybody tell me जी? ये आ रहा है जी आपका. ये बस splenic flexure है और यहाँ से it is running downwards like this. This is the descending colon. जी. Anterior relations में क्या होगा जी? Of course ना बच्चे, you can see ये क्या, ये क्या आपको क्या नजर आ रहा है ज़्यादा. Anterior recess वाले यहाँ पे क्या पड़ा है? Just in close proximity to, you know,
coils of small intestine.
Coils of small intestine, right? उसके बाद ये क्या reflect किया हुआ यहाँ से? What has been reflected from here? Greater mentum. और greater mentum के ऊपर क्या पड़ा होता है जी? Anterior to greater mentum क्या होगा जी? Anterior abdominal wall. You can see?
And
so देखिए यहाँ पे anterior abdominal wall remove की हुई है ना? So इसके anterior relations में from within outwards क्या क्या होगा जी? Coils of small intestine, greater mentum and the anterior abdominal wall. ठीक है जी? क्या मुश्किल है इसमें? We have discussed these things so many times. Okay, now what about the posterior relations? So posterior relations में the structures which are present in the posterior abdominal wall, because it is plastered against the posterior abdominal wall. आप देखिए ना, it is adherent against the posterior abdominal wall. सबसे पहले आपको क्या नजर आ रहा है जी? इसके बिल्कुल पीछे क्या पड़ा हुआ जी? Outer border of the left kidney, right? Or the lateral border of the left kidney. So it is. So सबसे पहले इसके जो posterior structure आपको नजर आएगा, वो क्या नजर आ रहा है? That is a lateral border of the left kidney. When you're just going to remove these, you know, contents of the posterior abdominal wall, तो posterior तो फिर आपको क्या नजर आएगा जी? Posterior abdominal wall नजर आएगा, right? So all the structures present behind the, see this is the location. Yeah, this is the location of the. तो यहाँ पे आपको क्या क्या नजर आ रहा है जी? Origin of the tricosa muscle है जी, transverse abdominis muscle. This one is the quadratus lumborum muscle. Here, यहाँ से आपको you can see ये sauce में जो नीचे आ रही है यहाँ पे, this is the iliacus, right? So iliopsoas muscle over here, and then you can see these nerves running downwards, ilioepigastric nerve and the ilioinguinal nerve. Then we have got the laterocutaneous nerve of the thigh. Then we have got the femoral nerve, right? Okay, so all those structures which are present, which are forming the left part of the, you know, posterior abdominal wall. Origin of transverse abdominis muscle, quadratus lumborum muscle. This is the iliacus muscle. These nerves running over there, the ilioepigastric and ilioinguinal nerve. ठीक है जी, hypogastric and this ilioinguinal nerve. Then the laterocutaneous thigh and the small bit part of the, you know, ये देखें ना, यहाँ से इस तरह आएगा. It is just going to cross from here. ठीक है, and this is a pelvic rib. ठीक है ना, इस लेवल पे आने के बाद it is going to be continuous with that of the, you know, sigmoid colon. ठीक है, so all these structures, I'm going to repeat it again. सबसे पहले वो the kidney था, ठीक है, kidney के बाद ये got this origin of the transverse abdominis muscle. We have got this one, quadratus lumborum muscle. Then the iliacus muscle. Here the psoas muscle. The nerves, hypogastric nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, laterocutaneous nerve of the thigh, and then this one the femoral. Any problem जी posterior relations में? It's very simple, because it is adherent, it is, you know, plastered over the posterior abdominal wall. All the structures which are going to form the posterior abdominal wall or running in the posterior abdominal wall, these are going to form the posterior relations of the descending colon. Is it clear बच्चे? ये problem तो नहीं है? Okay, we will talk about its blood splash. Blood splash of the descending colon, it is derived from, हाँ जी, कौन बताएगा जी? Hind gut की blood supply कहाँ से आ रही है?
Inferior mesenteric artery.
Inferior mesenteric artery. Here you can see this one, the inferior mesenteric artery. This is a, you know, a comparatively smaller branch than the, you know, other two arteries coming from the anterior surface of the aorta. So it's a smaller one, the inferior mesenteric artery, and then after getting origin over here, it is going to give a branch that's called as the left colic artery, right? And the left colic artery, it is going to run in the, you know, the mesocolon, and then it is going to, you know, sorry, behind the peritoneum, and then it is going to, going to divide into the ascending branch and the descending branch. Okay, left colic artery, it is going to get origin from the inferior mesenteric artery. It is going to divide into the ascending branch and the descending branch, right? And by these forming this, branches, it is just going to be a part of the, marginal artery, and from it is going to give these smaller arteries of other sustained branches going towards the, transverse colon. Okay, so it's going to supply the transverse colon, and here, other than the left colic artery, inferior mesenteric artery is going to give 2 or 3 sigmoid arteries. ठीक है जी, ये आप देख रहे हैं आप, 1 2 ये, ठीक है. So it is going to give these 2 or 3 sigmoid arteries, and these sigmoid arteries, they are going to supply the lower part of the descending colon and the sigmoid colon, right ji? So it means that the blood supply from the, descending, colon, it is receiving its blood supply in its upper part by the left colic artery, the ascending and descending branches of the left colic artery, and in the lower part, which is, which is just going to be continuous with the sigmoid colon, it is going to get its blood supply from the sigmoid arteries, right? As well, these both arteries, these are the branches of the inferior mesenteric artery. Any problem, ji? Is it clear, bache? Okay, ji, here there is a term that is called the marginal artery of the Drummond. Marginal artery. Here you can see marginal artery. Marginal artery is basically, किसी को पता है जी marginal artery का? Can anybody?
सर हार्ट में होती थी
सर जो बिल्कुल कॉर्नर्स पे सर जो रन करती है.
Okay, so but a marginal artery, it is basically an arching feeder artery, okay, of the colon, right? It is basically an artery which runs in the mesentery along the close to the running parallel to the margin of the colon, this one, okay, right? So it runs in the mesentery here, okay, running along, or you can say close or along the margins of the colon, this one. And this is basically, it's going to form a part of the vascular arcade here, you see, and which is going to receive the different branches from the different arteries coming from the superior mesenteric artery and the inferior mesenteric artery. Okay, ji? So you can see this artery, which is going to form an arcade-like structure, okay, which is running along the border of the, colon, near the margin of the colon, running parallel to the margin of the colon, right? This is called as the marginal artery of the Drummond, right? And it is basically going to receive the branch, contributed by the branches of the superior mesenteric artery, जिसमें आपकी ये ilicolic branch भी आ रही है. The mediocolic artery is also going to give its branches over here. ठीक है? It's likewise the inferior mesenteric, it is going to give the, on the right side, the right colic artery also giving the branches of the mediocolic artery, then the left colic artery coming from the inferior mesenteric and the sigmoid arteries. So all these arteries branches coming from the superior mesenteric and the inferior mesenteric arteries, these are going to give the branches and going to contribute to the formation of this marginal artery, which is running along the margins of the colon over here, running parallel and close to the margins of the colon. Is it clear, ji? So this is what this is called as the marginal artery of the Drummond. The problem thing is, is everything is clear? Achha, but iske ilawa bhi, there is another, structure present over here, and that is called as the arch of the Royal, right? You can see this arch, the Royal. So this is again an arterial anastomosis between the, proximal part of the midocolic artery here. You can see with the branch of the left colic artery. The left colic artery ascending branch aati hai na, it is going to make a anastomosis with the, branch which is coming from the proximal part of the midocolic artery, and this is called as the arc of Royal. It is also called as the Haller's anastomosis because it is again an anastomosis between the arteries, and that you can see the bigger arteries. Okay, Arterial is also called as the arterial anastomosis. Hallus anastomosis. It is also named as the mesenteric meandering artery. ठीक है जी? Right? So the arc of Ryavan. So these two, I think you must be remembering when you're talking about the blood supply of the colon. एक तो ये arc of Ryavan, and second one is the marginal artery of the Drummond. This one. ठीक है जी? Any problem जी arterial supply में? So arterial supply जो है, it is basically contributed by this arch-like structure present running along the margin of the colon, that is called the marginal artery, which is contributed in its formation, the arcade-like structure that is contributed by the the branches of the superior mesenteric artery, the iliacoelic artery, then the right coelic artery, then the middle coelic artery, and then from the inferior mesenteric or the left coelic artery and the sigmoid arteries. Any problem, Ji? Everything is clear now? Okay, we'll talk about the venous drainage. The venous drainage mein bache, you can see, of course, the arteries accompanying the veins. So, left coelic artery, you can see the branches, the veins running along with the left coelic artery, the left coelic veins, right? So the left coelic veins, they are going to drain into the, of course, to the inferior mesenteric vein, right? Or sigmoid veins are also, they're going to drain with the inferior mesenteric. So the veins from the descending colon, they are going to collect the blood and they're going to drain into the inferior mesenteric vein. And this inferior mesenteric vein, it is going to open here, you can see, into the splenic vein. The splenic vein, as you know, the splenic vein and superior mesenteric vein, they are going to form the portal. So the blood collected from here, which is rich in the nutrients, right? And the water and electrolytes in the descending column from here. So they are just going to, be the part of the fluid or the blood, venous blood, which is going towards the to enter in the liver. ठीक है जी? Okay. After the venous drainage, we'll talk about its lymphatic drainage. The lymphatic drainage is same. We have talked about it already. The lymph nodes present over the walls. These are the epicolic. From the epicolic, they are going towards the epicolic. से कहाँ जाएंगे जी? This one running along the margins, running parallel into the mesocolon. That is a कौन से थे जी यहाँ पे? Paracolic, and from paracolic, the lymph will travel towards the intermediate, which is running along the vessels, like the left coelic artery or ये जो sigmoid arteries के साथ पड़े हुए, and then from here they will be towards their final destination. ठीक है जी? These are what? The inferior mesenteric nerves. ठीक है जी? So it is similar. We have talked about it already, also in detail. Okay. What about the nerve supply? Nerve supply भी हम लोग पढ़ चुके हैं. ठीक है? It is similar. That it is having the sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic fibers are, coming from the कहाँ से आएंगे sympathetic fibers के? Inferior mesenteric plexus है ना? Inferior mesenteric plexus is an extension from the aortic plexus coming downwards. हम इसके बारे में बात कर चुके हैं when we talked about the transverse colon, right? So inferior mesenteric plexus and inferior mesenteric plexus में इसके जो fibers आ रहे हैं parasympathetic fibers, they are basically contributed by these pelvic symplectic nerves. पास से हम पढ़ चुके हैं from pelvic symplectic nerves they are going towards the superior epigastric, and from the superior epigastric they are going to travel towards the inferior mesenteric, and through the inferior mesenteric plexus they are going to be their destination with the branches of left coelic artery and the sigmoid arteries के साथ जो branches जाती हैं उनके साथ is going to supply the. ठीक है जी? Any problem till now? जी any problem till now?
पैरासिम्पैथेटिक सर रिवाइज कर.
जी sorry?
सर पैरासिम्पैथेक रिवाइज कर.
बेटे पैरासिम्पैथेटिक मैंने आपको बताया था ना जब हमने ट्रांसवर्स कोलन भी पढ़े थे कि हाइंड गट के लिए जो पैरासिम्पैथेटिक फाइबर्स आते हैं, these are coming from the pelvic symplectic nerves. मैंने आपको बताया भी था ना, ये pelvic symplectic nerves है. ठीक है जी? Right? Pelvic symplectic nerves, these are basically the branches. These are the preganglionic fibers which are coming from the S2, 3, and 4. ठीक है? ये आपके निकल spinal nerves. S1 है, S2, S3, and S4. So S2, 3, or 4 में से these are preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. They are coming from here and they are going to ascend from here, they're going to enter into the inferior hypogastric plexus, or inferior hypogastric plexus if fiber ascend करते हैं ऊपर की तरफ, they will come through this hypogastric nerve into the superior hypogastric plexus, and from the superior hypogastric plexus, the fibers will travel upwards towards the inferior mesenteric artery, जो plexus बना रहता है, inferior hypogastric plexus, right? So the parasympathetic fibers for the hindgut, they are derived from the pelvic subclavian nerves. What are the pelvic subclavian nerves? These are the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, which are coming from the S2, 3, and the 4 spinal nerves. Is it clear? और इसके जो sympathetic fibers हैं, these are of course they're coming from the along the aortic plexus, जहाँ पे the fibers are coming from the lumbar sympathetic chain. या ये देखो ना, ये आपकी sympathetic chain आ रही है lumbar. यहाँ से there are certain fibers that are going to enter into here, going to form the plexus over here. ठीक है जी? And basically the inferior, if you talk about the inferior mesenteric plexus, तो वो कहाँ से आता है? It is basically the offshoot or the extension coming from the aortic plexus downwards. ठीक है ना जी? ठीक है. What is the aortic plexus? We have talked about it already in detail. ठीक है. Any problem till now जी? और inferior hypogastric plexus में जब fibers, pelvic spine fibers जहाँ से आ रहे हैं, right? और ये जो sympathetic fibers यहाँ से आ रहे हैं, they are going to be going to form plexus over in front of the inferior mesenteric artery, and then these branches from these plexus, they are running along the arterial supply. ये देखिए arteries के साथ they are going to run towards their destination, towards the descending colon. Is it clear जी? So we have finished with the descending colon जी. Now we'll talk about the sigmoid colon जी. हाँ जी. So sigmoid colon कौन बताएगा जी? अभी भी हमने पढ़ा जी sigmoid colon. ये चलिए यहीं पे देख लेते हैं. Sigmoid colon is what?
Part of large intestine.
Right. So it's a it's also a part of large intestine. Well, it begins as a continuation of that. So here it's a colon already. So it's going to begin as a continuation of the continuation of the descending colon, right? And it is called sigmoid because it is sigma shaped, right? Sigma is basically a Greek word. You see with this, the S with a slight curve here, right? Because of this one. So this sigma shaped or this S shaped part of the colon, that is called as a sigmoid colon, and it begins as what? It begins as a continuation of the descending colon, right? और किस जगह पे आके होता है? At the level of the pelvic brim. ठीक है, ये pelvic brim. Pelvic brim के level पे आने के बाद it is going to be continuous descending colon, and from here this sigmoid colon is going to end and continues with the second last part of the alimentary canal, that is a rectum. ठीक है, तो कहाँ पे? And at the level of the, just show you. At the level of the S3 vertebra. ठीक है, third second vertebra के level पे the sigmoid colon comes over here, and then it is going to be continuous with the rectum at the level of the S3 vertebra. ठीक है, so sigmoid colon, it is also called the reservoir of the feces. Basically, it begins as a continuation of the descending colon in front of the pelvic brim, and then it is going to become continuous, or rather it is going to end at the in front of the third sacral vertebrae, and it is going to continuous become is going to become continuous as a rectum. ठीक है जी, ये प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है बच्चे? शेप मैंने आपको बता दी है. It is, you see, it's a small s sigma shaped, which is a Greek word, and this part of the sigmoid colon, you can see this one, right? And here you could here in the pelvis, okay, is the S3 level. It is going to be continuous with the rectum. Right? You can see it's going to continue at the level of pelvic brim. Pelvic brim यहाँ से start हो रहा है, and it's going to make a S-shaped loop, right? And then it is going to hang down in the pelvic cavity. आप ये देख सकते हैं, right? So as I told you before that it is intraperitoneal, right? It is attached with the posterior wall by the mesentery, its own mesentery, or the mesocolon, that is a sigmoid mesocolon, right? So it is motile, it is mobile, and it is going to hang down in the pelvic cavity. और इसकी लेंथ कितनी होती है इसकी, इट इज अबाउट 30 to 40 सेंटीमीटर। इज इट क्लियर जी की प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है? I'm going to repeat it again. Sigmoid colon, it is the continuation of the rectum, the descending colon at the level of pelvic rim, and then it is, make an S-shaped loop. It's going to hang down in the S-shaped pattern in the pelvic cavity, right? And then it is going to be continuous with the rectum at the level of the S3 vertex. Any problem, Vijay? Everything is clear? And as you see that it is having its own mesocolon, it is covered with peritoneum, so it is highly mobile, and it is going to hang down in the pelvic cavity in a loop-like manner. Okay, so I just want to show you the line of attachment of mesocolon. ठीक है जी, sigmoid mesocolon की, this is an attachment of the inverted V-shaped attachment of the sigmoid mesocolon, right? Okay. Now, what would be this relations of the sigmoid colon? So this is in a part of sigmoid colon over here, and you can see it's going to contain the rectum at the level of S3, S1, S2, and S3, right? So at the level of the S3, the sigmoid colon is going to be continuous with the rectum over here, right? Now, anterior relations. Anterior relations in case of the female, right? In case of the female, you can see is the body of the uterus. So the posterior surface of the body of the uterus, in case of the female, they're present, in the anterior relation of the sigmoid colon, and in the cases of the male, it is related to the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. You can see this one. This is a urinary bladder in the males. So in the males, it is going to be related anteriorly with the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. And in the cases of female, I have shown you before that we have got the body of the uterus and its anterior relations. Okay, ji? Okay, ji. Now in the posterior relations, you can see it is lying in the posterior relations. As you see, it's going to make a loop in this region like this. ऐसे इसमें continue हो रहा, so some part of the rectum it is just going to line the have a posterior relation to this one, and also of course it is going to have the the sacrum in the posterior relations. With both male and female, some part of the rectum and the the sacrum, it is lying in the posterior relation of the sigmoid colon. Any problem with it? It's very simple. Anteriorly, in the females, it is related to the body of the posterior surface of the body of the uterus, and the case of the male, it is related to the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. You can see this one. Urinary bladder की surface नजर आ रही है आपको, right? And posteriorly, it is related with the body of the sacrum. Yes, the sacrum is posteriorly. Okay. Now blood supply again. Blood supply क्या होगी जिसकी? Can anybody share जी?
Sir, sigmoid artery.
Right. So sigmoid arteries. Sigmoid arteries are, I told you, how many in number? 2 to 3 arteries, which are coming from the inferior mesenteric artery, right? You can see this one. Okay. Inferior mesenteric artery is going to be the 2 to 3 these sigmoid arteries, and these sigmoid arteries are going to make this arcade and going to the form the contribution to the marginal artery, and from here the marginal artery, you can see these arteries, you can see the straight arteries going downwards, and there is about the vasa rectus, right? Or the straight arteries which are going to supply the sigmoid colon, right? Okay, or vein system, of course, the sigmoid veins, which are going to drain into the inferior mesenteric veins, right? And inferior mesenteric vein is going to form what, G? It's a part of the portal circulation. ठीक है जी? Right? So this inferior mesenteric vein is going to be open into the splenic vein, which is going to take part in formation of the portal vein, right? So again, the veins are, related to the portal venous system. Lymph nodes, again, the nodes along the, epicolic on this surface of the sigmoid colon, and from here over the paracolic going towards the sigmoid colon, or sorry, sigmoid nodes, which are running along the sigmoid arteries, and then from here to the inferior mesenteric nodes. Nerve supply is same, sympathetic and parasympathetic, which are coming from the inferior epigastric plexus. We have talked about it already in detail. ठीक है जी, कोई प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है बच्चे? Everything is clear? Okay, so now we'll talk about a bit about the clinicals of the, the large intestine. Okay, so when we were talk about the cecum, तो मैंने वो बताया था, inflammation of the cecum is called what? Typhlitis, right? Inflammation of the cecum is called typhlitis, right? Okay, and then very important sort of the inflammation of the intestines, that is the intestinal tuberculosis. Okay, that occurs. The most common site for that one is a ileocecal junction. Okay, intestinal tuberculosis की जो common important site है, that is the at the ileocecal junction. Okay, at the ileocecal junction, or from the posterior surface of cecum, there is a diverticulum passing downwards that is called as the appendix. So inflammation of that one, that is called as the appendicitis. And you are most of them, you're familiar with the appendicitis, and the procedure which we are going to perform, that is a appendicectomy. Okay, when you talk about the colon में बच्चे सबसे important the thing which will be coming across, that is the colonic cancers. Okay, colonic cancers are there, which is, you see, presence of the mass in the, going to invade the lumen of the colon by that growing tumor, right? And most commonly, these are going to occur at the rectosigmoid junctions. Okay, right? There are certain procedures when we are going to treat the, we are going to operate and take out the, tumors along with the part of the colon. Then sometimes we have to, do a procedure that's called the cecostomy, right? Ostomy, remembers a word which means making a hole. So we are just going to, because you see cecum, it is the most mobile part, okay, of the large intestine, and it's just lying close to the anterior abdominal wall. So what we are going to do, that we are just going to make a hole in the anterior abdominal wall, and we are going to make a stoma or the opening, and it's going to make it around the, going to open in the anterior abdominal wall, and we are going to suture or fix the cecum along that one, so that for the provide a temporary route for the passage of the fluids or the fecal matter in this one. Okay, just show you there. You can see how we use to make the cecostomy, make a stump over here, and then we are just going to put that closure over here by making a putting a button on this region like this, the cecostomy. Okay, similarly, we are going to small opening, make a small opening in the anterior abdominal wall. Okay. We use another thing that we're just going to make the descent part of descending colon again to the again that make a hole in the anterior abdominal wall, and we need to communicate with the descending colon over here and make a stoma. Okay, and that is basically called the colostomy, right? Because we are going to make a hole in the in the descending colon and then we are going to fix it along with the anti-abdominal wall, the custom over it, and here we are going to put the colostomy bags over there to collect the feces in this direction. Here you can see this is a colostomy bag which is being tied at this colostomy point, and here you can see the collection of the feces of the urine and all these structures which we can collect in that region. Is it clear, बच्चे? कोई problem तो नहीं है? Okay, then.
No, sir.
Okay, another thing is a volvulus. Volvulus is basically the twisting up of the, when the loop of the intestine twists around itself, twist around itself or around its mesentery, so it is going to do what? Then it will lead to the twist hoga to kya hoga? There will be the bowel obstruction ho jayegi, the content of that part of the intestine, they will not move forward. So the bowel obstruction होगी तो patient क्या करेगा? Patient will come to you with the